Wednesday, everybody. My name's Aaron. I'm the co-founder, managing director here at BWG Connect, giant networking and knowledge sharing group. Spend the majority of my time just talking to brands, organizations, start up the Fortune 500, covering everything in the digital space. Asking everybody, hey, what are those topics that you'd want covered, and who's helping you solve those problems? Who are the industry experts that you lean on? When those two things align, we host an event like this. We do a lot of dinners every year as well. If you're in a tier one city, let us know. We'll be sure that when we're there, we'll give you an invite. We've got some longtime friends, partners, supporters of the network over at Blue Wheel, and what they're doing in the this SEO, generative SEO, whatever we want to call it, GEO. I think there's like 40 different acronyms, and nobody's really landed on any yet. But this is a topic that's been coming up over and over again in the AI space. If you heard some of the pre-call chit chat here was around the complexity of trying to integrate AI tools, and brands still need to adapt. What are those things they can currently tackle? And one of those is the rapidly changing area of organic search. And so, Nicole, you want to do a brief intro on yourself and Blue Wheel? That'd be great. And we can, take it over, Lisa, as well. But let's do that, and we'll then jump into the content. And people, as we do, as you have questions, drop them in the Q&A, and we'll answer them as real time as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Lisa, you want to kick it off with your intro, and then I can take over?
Yeah, no worries. So great to be here. We are excited to talk about this. I am the Senior Director of Owned Media here at Blue Wheel. So I lead the SEO team, the lifecycle team focused on email and SMS, and then also organic social. So, your major platforms, and then also community management.
Awesome, cool. And I'm Nicole Reich. I'm the CGO here at Blue Wheel. We're excited to partner with BWG to discuss SEO and the age of AI, right? Over the next 45 minutes, we're going to go over what's covering. We're going to go over what's changing in the search landscape, how LLMs are impacting discoverability, and then most importantly, what this means for all of you as retail brands in this space. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to take 20 seconds, how about that, to share some information about Blue Wheel. We're an omni-channel agency. We support brands for both marketplace and D2C performance advertising efforts. So in general, most of our business is supporting brands on their own D2C website as well as Amazon, but we also work with brands on Walmart, eBay, and we do a ton of retail media across all of the online retail websites. Two pieces of our business. On the click side, we think of this as the front facing. These are the tactics, marketing performance tactics that you need to get your products discovered and to improve your customer experience once they find your products. But also on the back end, and SEO, I would say, falls into a little bit of this. We're supporting brands with some of the foundation, right? What are the things that need to be in place that once your brand is discovered and people are engaging with the brand, they have the ability to find inventory and purchase it, right? Have the right customer experience, understand pricing and the number of sellers, and then as well have a cohesive catalog management. So we've been doing this for over a decade now. Super excited to still be in the space. It's still always changing. And obviously the biggest disruption that we've seen over the last, call it 6 to 18 months, is obviously the impact of AI. Want to flip over to our agenda for today. So we're going to cover 3 things. One, we'll go over the state of the industry, just some points and stats that we're seeing about how severe of a change this is and what it means for organic. After that, we're going to get into, okay, we know what is happening in SEO AI. How do we tweak our existing playbook to account for the adjustments? We'll follow that up with some of the measurement that we use for our brands and for our own website, and then we'll do a quick recap. As Aaron mentioned, please drop any of the questions into the chat. We have Lisa here, who is truly the expert. So she and I will try to answer as many as we can. And if we don't know the answer, we'll try to get the answer after the call. So starting with the state of the industry when it comes to SEO, we wanted to start kind of more at the high level around LLMs and how it's changing organic search. So right now, 80% of consumers rely on zero-click AI responses, and at least in at least 40% of their searches. So this is stemming from both the traditional search engine with AI summaries, so call it Google AI overviews, right? And then your new generative LLM platforms. This has led to an estimated 15 to 25% reduction in organic web traffic already. And experts are saying by next year, organic traffic is going to reduce by 20 to 40%. We're in a particular spot to see this as an agency who works on both SEO and paid media, and we can confirm that we see this as well. Or our organic traffic is going down right now across the board, which means that we have to be more reliant, obviously, on paid, which isn't always good for budgets. But at the same time, if we can get served for these AI responses, that can offset some of this decrease in traditional organic SEO.
I mean, what's super interesting is the rapid adoption. Like, this is something people want,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I have a
yeah.
stat in a 2 slides, Aaron, around how fast ChatGPT is taking off in comparison to other businesses that have grown over the last couple of decades, and it's crazy. Like, it is here no matter what. I think what the thing I'm hearing from our brands so much right now is this is what's keeping me up at night, especially our brands on the D2C side, right? When they're thinking about profitability and their media budgets, and then at the same time, the organic is going down, right? So definitely the biggest topic we're talking about with our brands right now.
Well, for sure. I mean, they realize the early advantage of, Google keyword stuffing back in like 2006. They know staying on top of search is incredibly important, and this is turning that traditional model on its head. So how do you show up in the new era of search? Which, I mean, I think this is a perfect topic. I'll let you keep going. Others, if you have
Great.
questions, drop in the chat or drop in the Q&A, and we'll get to them real time.
Awesome. One of the other questions that we get often is which sites should I be optimizing for, which LLM, which ones make the biggest impact? So we partner with SimilarWeb, and they give us some of this industry data. In April of 2025, here are the top 50 outgoing referral traffic destinations by LLM. And within Google, that's also AI overviews. So the reason that we focus so much and why we're going to be focusing on Google and ChatGPT specifically today is that those are the two platforms that consumers are using the most for retail, for product discovery, for shopping. So not to say that we don't want to optimize and pay attention to Perplexity and Copilot, but if you think about where the traffic is going from where customers are looking for your products, it's still very much so Google and ChatGPT, which is why we're focused on those. Double clicking into Google AI overviews. So in general, Google search real estate is shrinking, right? The traditional SEO, the organic placement. For SERPs containing AI overviews, when those come up, there are 96% fewer site links, 84% fewer videos, and 75% fewer knowledge panels. I'm personally a little sad about the knowledge panels because I like them as a consumer, but the AI overviews is providing a similar experience and definitely taking up even more space of that SERP. Also, the AI overviews, like I said, take up most of the screen. And if we think about how the impact or how many people this is touching, so in Q1 of 2025, it served over 1.5 billion users, roughly 26% of all internet users globally. So still 75% of the time you're getting something else, right? You're getting that traditional SEO, you're getting the links, but more than 25% of the time, these are showing up at the top. And when they show up, they're taking up more than half of the page. So what does that look like? We tried to, knowing that this is a little bit of a newer topic, right? We've added some visuals to start to try to quantify or show this in more layman's terms, right? So if we type in top sock brands, our traditional SEO surfaces would show something like this, right? You've got our 11 best socks of 2025. You've got Reddit coming up. This one's coming up more often. And then you've got all of your brands below and your paid media up at top. When we think about the AI overviews, this is what it looks like, right? Top sock brands, straightforward in the sense of what do you need to use it for? And then you can see the brands underneath here. So this is where the optimizing for AI when it comes to SEO is so important, because if you are not doing that, you are not coming up in these spaces anymore. And you don't have any other ability to show up in the SERP because this is taking over all of the placement. Transitioning to ChatGPT. So what this chart shows you is a comparison of April 2025 versus March 2025. And it's showing you all of the top websites or sites, popular sites in the US. And what happened in April was that ChatGPT was the only site that had an increase in visitors month over month. All of the other sites were down, and ChatGPT was up 13%. That includes Google. So to your point, Aaron, in the sense of what customers want, right? Everyone is shifting to ChatGPT in some sense, and obviously a big piece of that is shifting to ChatGPT for retail searching.
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting that it's not like they're just growing because people like it as an add-on. The others are all down.
Yes. Yeah, we saw a stat the other day that was like, AI isn't taking away share, it's gaining share, where more people are searching because of ChatGPT. I don't know. I need to see more information on that, because everything that we see is seeing the share go from these other sites to ChatGPT. So I think more to come. The when we see something a little bit more legit, I would say we'll release that. But from what we can tell, it's just moving search. It's not necessarily incremental new search.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, doing my own me search. I mean, I love ChatGPT. It's replacing it for me. So
Yeah. Here's the good news. So if you can show up in ChatGPT and it's working and more customers are going there, what SimilarWeb is finding is that if consumers find a product through ChatGPT, they are converting 1.7 times more than Google, which is really interesting. So maybe this is because ChatGPT makes it more simple to get the information quickly and make a decision, right? Maybe this is because it's showing the different links and then they're shopping afterwards. But if we can get customers to find your brand through ChatGPT versus Google, you have a higher chance of them converting. And then these next two slides just show a little bit about the impact of ChatGPT, which is just insane. So in under 6 months, ChatGPT surpassed 10% of Google searches, which doesn't seem like a lot. But if you compare it to other companies that have made a splash over the last 20 to 30 years, it's pretty insane. For comparison, if we think about Amazon trying to get 10% of Walmart's revenue, it took them 17 years to do that. So I know that this isn't just an apples to apples comparison, and obviously ChatGPT is free in many ways, so maybe it's easier for consumers to adapt to it. I totally get that. But I hope this just gives you some comparison in the sense of ChatGPT is exponentially changing, right? And taking over the way consumers shop and where they shop. So all of this to say, again, why brands are staying up at night thinking about SEO and AI. It's a big deal, and it's only going to be making a bigger impact on brands.
yeah, just quick, where are people at in general? I mean, you guys deal with a lot of brands. Like, we're in the bottom of the first inning, the top of the first inning with this, or are people behind yet? Or how soon before they are behind? And maybe we're going to get to all of that. But I feel like the rate at which this is going, even if it is a 9-inning game, we're going to get done with 9 innings in the time we normally get done with 3-inning game. And so
Yeah,
people are
I would agree with that. I think the other, and this is a piece Lisa will talk to, but it's still, we're on like our 5th version of ChatGPT, right, Lisa? So to that point, we're still very much in the early stages, and they're tweaking and getting better, and therefore the brands will need to stay up on top of that. But I would say for the most part, most brands I'm talking to are very much in the stage of like, we got to figure this out fast. Give me as much education as you can, right? How do we decide how this changes our current SEO playbooks? Where do we think we need more tools? Where do we think we could leverage AI to get better at SEO AI? So I think when it comes to the brands and their strategic decision making, I would say we're still very early on. But in the sense of customer adoption, I would say maybe like second or third inning, Aaron.
Awesome.
Cool. Another visual here, and Aaron, you mentioned a lot of different acronyms and how people are defining this. Here's how we're thinking about it. So when we say traditional SEO, it's our what we're always used to, right? I showed you examples of how websites are coming up. Usually this happens below the paid efforts, right? The goal is obviously to rank in these search results. You want to focus on the first page. You want to focus on technical. Strengthen your evergreen traffic, makes you more credible. And the limit is obviously below ads and AI answers, right? That's the whole point of why we're having the discussion today. When we say AEO, answer engine optimization, that's the quick answer that you see in AI overviews where you ask it a lot of times a specific question and then it shoots out a specific answer. It looks a little bit similar to those knowledge panels that used to be pretty popular. When we think about GEO or generative engine optimization, this is those long tail summaries that have more in-depth context. The strength of it is that it provides recommendations and a bit more of a guide. So they're harder to measure and there's no fixed rank. But the efforts that we're going to talk through when we think about our playbook impact all three of these, but most specifically today, the AEO and the GEO. Lisa, I want to pause there. Did I miss anything before we move on?
I think you covered it quite well. So with Aaron's question too, the speed to lead here, really, these sorts of things are pushing down, the way that we would look at this through a Google search, right? So the AI overview is coming up, I would say, I think 60% or more inquiries, right, through Google search. So that's where brands are really trying to understand, how do we get featured? Why are our competitors being featured, but we're not?
Awesome. Okay, so what do we do about it, right? Hopefully I don't want to say hopefully, but that was probably 10 minutes of scaring you in the sense of how everything's changing and what it could be for what it means for your organic traffic. But what's the playbook and how do we tweak these to counter some of these updates? So Lisa, I'll pass it off to you for this part.
Excellent. Yeah. So as far as the playbook goes, we really look at this in 4 phases. So when you're starting out, that first phase is really the foundation, looking at the technical setup and the performance and where we can optimize. So fixing the foundational issues that are impacting crawlability, the indexation, and then the core web vitals globally. So really getting into more than likely the back-end coding of the site to make sure that structurally it's sound and it works out for the bots that are trying to get into the site and understand it. Then for phase 2, we're looking at EEAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So really looking at your content strategy, and you're building SEO-driven content, but now it's elevated, right? We want to support those revenue-generating pages, and we want to be very smart about the content that's in there and build credibility. Just a quick note, anything that we're doing to optimize for AI is also optimizing for your human users. Really think about it as, again, enriching the content and giving people the answers that they're looking for. The AI is there to pull the answers, and more than likely, if you're doing this right, your site will have those answers and it can pull from there. So then phase 3, the authority building and the digital PR, we're really looking at strengthening the brand, making sure that the visibility is there. And then you have that link equity really for your top performing pages. So again, you are a go-to source and authority in the space. And then for phase 4, that's your ongoing work, right? So maintaining the growth momentum, looking at continuous optimization. As you continue to grow and build your website, there will be things that need to be fixed on the technical end. It's sort of cyclical, right? Where you need to look at if you're adding a new plugin to a Shopify site, or app, then there's different pieces that could come into play on the back end in the code that could affect how your site is being accessed, again, by the AI and the LLM. So looking at that on a regular basis, making sure that your content is refreshed in cycles. And then, of course, there's some seasonality and continuous updates based on how the AI is evolving.
Yeah, and we got a question here from Melanie, and others. Feel free to drop it in the Q&A. Is there any intel as to which marketplace ChatGPT prefers to refer to for products and how it makes that decision?
Great
So factoring
question.
in price, and maybe
Yeah.
we're going to get to it.
We don't go into that in like any sort of depth in this webinar today. There is an alliance between Shopify and ChatGPT. So if you are on Shopify, there is an advantage. We haven't been able to, necessarily place a numerical value on how much more likely you are to get cited if you're in Shopify. But we are digging into that on our side. The majority of brands that we're working with are in Shopify. So we're just doing a little bit of digging in our network to see how true that advantage may or may not be.
I mean, it's a great question from the standpoint of if, Apple and Perplexity were talking, Google as Claude, ChatGPT, the like you were saying with the relationship with Shopify, are they going to send it to Amazon? I
Great
mean,
question.
that's the question at the end of the day, right?
Amazon has its own Rufus AI. It's a closed environment. Does that mean something might change in the future? Not at all. I mean, there's definitely an opportunity, I would think. But as it stands right now, Rufus does not have a play outside of the Amazon ecosystem.
Lisa, when you're on ChatGPT, the items that are the different platforms, the retailers, obviously Shopify being a huge one, totally get that they're going to have preference there, but it's not like Amazon.com, Walmart.com don't come up, right? I might be
Correct.
okay,
Yeah,
cool.
there's not like a wall that says it won't pull from the
Yeah.
marketplaces. It's just that the Rufus intelligence within Amazon isn't necessarily affecting the Google search results, right?
Yep.
Yes, it's also super interesting for the future, right? Of at any point in time, just like Amazon turned off advertising on Google, the Claudes, the Chat GPTs, the Perplexity could turn off that functionality to route people to Amazon. Super interesting. Um, a question drops in here. Do we know how Reddit factors into Chat GPT searches?
It's a high value for these searches because it's looking for the context, right? So if you have someone that's looking for the best garden tools for fall, right? It will pull from a number of different places, including social channels, especially Reddit, where people are having those conversations and it's like available for crawlability so that it can pull from those sorts of sources. That's another one where we don't necessarily have a score on the board for how important Reddit is in the mix, but I would say it's definitely something that brands need to take into consideration. How are they coming up in Reddit? What are the sorts of conversations that are happening about their products? How are they monitoring this? How are they getting ahead of it and answering questions on, how they are the best? Whether it's directly on Reddit or through their owned channels, right, where they can kind of control the content and again, just put in that enriched content and build the authority.
And I would add to that one on the Reddit piece, and we'll talk about this kind of towards the end, but in the tools, whether it's a similar web or SEM Rush, they are monitoring. You can monitor your brand and how often it is getting traffic driven to Reddit or how often Reddit is coming up in these search results. And then you can see that over time of you versus your competitors. So to Lisa's point, I haven't seen any stat that like Reddit's going to be over any one other site or the importance of it. But I will tell you, based on the data, we are seeing a lot of traffic go from LLMs to Reddit.
It's just super interesting that we'll see this then shift. There's all the social media listening tools out there, the sprinklers and whatnots. And a lot of it was, hey, what's going on a Meta platform or an Insta? It all of a sudden to see a Reddit take off, not from the standpoint of wanting to understand the conversation, particularly, but most importantly, like if that's going to be a major driver of traffic, or I should
Right.
say of search results within
Right.
these LLMs, what's being said becomes even more important. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Lisa, you want to talk a little bit about phase one?
Yeah. So with this technical audit, really what we're looking at, again, the core web vitals, thinking about the site speed and the performance score there. there's opportunities to reduce load time for some brands, right? And then, of course, enhance the crawlability for users and AI engines. So there's some, this is not a technical webinar. I'm not going to go into all the details of what those look like, but there's a number of things that we've seen in development. And I've seen with some website redesign projects where, you just have to get in there and make sure that the code is clean and go through the steps that just makes it better for both users and AI. When we're looking at the crawl signals, there are opportunities to clarify the index priorities, right? And then streamlining the internal links, the subdomains. Orphan pages have always been an issue, for traditional SEO, but it's even more so, coming up with some of these AI audits. And, that just gives us an opportunity to improve efficiency overall, right? And then finally, the structured data, with AI readability, it does impact the human aspect of it, right? We see sites that become much more organized. We can suggest schema markup improvements, looking at product and FAQ content and how that fits within key templates. That again is, sort of just giving a very literal representation of what you want the AI to surface. So, common questions about your product and what the correct answers are. Again, really helpful for both human and AI audience.
And are you doing like an audit for brands?
Yep,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, so this is a screenshot of some items we might come across as we're running the testing and digging into the sites. So this example here, you've got site crawlability and indexation on the in the groups there with the arrows at. We look at, what are those issues within that group or category, and then, what's the action? Typically, it's a fix, or we would maybe make a decision on how do we want to use this particular aspect moving forward, and what the priority level would be based on the impact. So, I would say the most common issue we're seeing with websites are more content. Once we get through the schema markup and digging into the technical aspects, we are spending more time, Aaron, on content and making sure that there's that EEAT, that experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness built into the content.
So Lisa, you would say that this is just step one, right? Start with an audit, get an understanding of where you stand today within your website, especially on the technical side. And then after you have a list of the priorities and the technical fixes, then moving on to, what the content strategy would be. And when that strategy goes on the website, it's already within the right markup or the right flow that it needs to be for the trackers to track the website.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't say that I've ever seen a site that didn't need some sort of technical fixes first. And I do think some brands look at content first because it's a little bit more accessible for them. They're the experts on their product, so they can put that together. But then, yeah, you have to go back and rework on the technical side, regardless. Like, this is the foundation.
Got it. So if you do a bunch of content and you have it optimized for AI, but you do have all of these technical issues that have, high impact that need to be fixed, the content you have is kind of a bit of a waste because it's not getting crawled.
Yeah, it's just not as efficient, honestly.
Cool.
Yeah, if it can't be crawled, yeah, it's not going to be the best output for sure.
Awesome.
Excellent. All right, then, so phase two, this is where we really dive into the content aspects. So refreshing those high value pages. So, with the SEO insights you may already have, there are opportunities to have richer content. You want to have intent match headlines. So, in more layman's terms, having those specific headlines for your target demographic, the person you are trying to help with your product or service, and then of course internal links. So if they get to that page, then they have more to go on and they can continue through the funnel and understand your product or service better, and then get into that piece where they're really able to make an educated and informed decision and go ahead and convert. In that opportunity, we're really closing the content gaps, and we're looking at the full journey. We're looking at potentially those missing mid funnel and long tail keywords. We see some great opportunities when it comes to blog clusters and then the product Q&A. Again, I've talked to so many brand leaders that are the experts on their product, and they're so passionate about how they're helping people, but that information isn't necessarily on the website. And so that's where we're able to help and look at those opportunities to optimize the copy for AI and for humans, look at the semantic richness, build out the FAQs, and really, the goal is to win in those Google overviews and ChatGPT responses, embedding the EEAT and incorporating author credentials where it makes sense, and then, of course, verified information. Excellent. So this is an example. Nicole, did you want to talk on this, or you want me to?
Yep, I can. So what we try to do here is we gave you like the phase itself, a description of that, of what you have to do, and then some visuals, right? So we talk about the importance of the FAQs, the product details, and then the EAT, right? So here's just some examples within TART that you can tell these came up because they're optimizing for AI, right? So we've got our FAQs that they've clearly refreshed in a way that setting those up to how do consumers search within ChatGPT or these LLMs, right? What type of questions do they ask? That's done through, you can research that through different tools. They can show you what consumers are searching for, right? Which give you an idea of how you should come up with your FAQs. The how-tos are very consistent and transparent about the product details, right? And then trying to get some, like you said, Lisa, some backup in the sense of making the information more credible. So just wanted to give you, again, examples of what you could be using or how you should be thinking about your own site.
A quick question comes in. How important are blogs with GEO versus just enhancing, optimizing the higher traffic pages and PDPs? Another one. Everybody love the questions. Keep dropping them in the Q&A and we'll get to them.
Can we say they're both equally important, Lisa?
Yeah, sorry. So the blogs, yeah, this is another piece where, I mean, it's essentially, a black box. We aren't given the exacts from any of the LLMs on what are all the pieces and what's the weight in the scorecard. There are some instances where I've seen blogs come up over PDPs. I know that some of the testing that we did, even in preparation for this webinar, I saw branded and the PDP, like I'll go into this here actually on the next phase, but when you're looking at branded results, PDPs are very valuable. And same, it's kind of a balancing act. It's going to be a little bit more specific to what your product line is or service line.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes into the next question. Is anyone aware of search reports or data we can get directly from ChatGPT?
That's a really good question. So we have a slide at the end, Joseph, where it shows like how can we leverage AI to make us better at AI SEO. I don't, Lisa, do you have anything that you're using specific reports within ChatGPT, or are we still leveraging most of the time, other software providers that's consolidating the data?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything that I'm using directly from ChatGPT. There are a number of different tools, and we have a couple screenshots coming up where, to what Nicole said, consolidating the data. There's a number of different tests that we've done manually, but it's not that you get a report card from ChatGPT.
Next question is a little easier. Could we get a copy of the presentation? Are we going to be able to send this around? Another thing, we launched a YouTube page called Next Up in Digital that we take all these recordings and we drop it out there. So if you want to go back and review anything there, but are you able to shoot around a copy of the presentation?
Yep. So you'll get a copy of the presentation through email by end of day tomorrow, if not today.
Awesome. Awesome.
Great. Yeah, I'll go ahead and continue. So with the phase 3, looking at trust and visibility, this is where, I love that question about blogs versus PDPs. So, really when we're improving the branded and entity signals and reinforcing the brand, that's going to help boost the branded queries. And, really it comes down to structured data and consistent naming. So the next slide, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but when you are putting together your product pages, this ties back into the foundations of how you are setting up the pages and the way that you're naming products consistently across the board, how you're talking about your categories. If you have a category over here that is um, eyeshadow and mascara, and then over here you have mascara and eyeshadow, that is a mix, like a mismatch. So little things like that do have a play in the greater technical setup and of course the crawlability. So when we're building authority, we're also looking at PR strategy. And again, this is something where you really want to be buttoned up as you're getting mentions in digital PR and thought leadership in these relevant spaces. So consistency is key. It just really gives that professional polish and then helps inform the AI and honestly, the human audience that you're talking to. So when we're using that EEAT optimized content, you have all of your ducks in a row. You have your author bios, your trust badges, the citations, and everything across the board is consistent where the language is one-to-one from your website to your blog to whatever this external piece is. Perfect, thanks. So on this slide, we can explain a little bit more. So for the Wilson Pro Staff tennis racket, right? This is consistent in all of the ways that it comes up, the Wilson Pro Staff. It doesn't come up as the Pro Staff Wilson or the Pro Staff by Wilson. It's consistent, right? In every opportunity that it comes up. And so this screenshot on the left is optimized branded queries. And then the screenshot on the right is the improved credibility coming from those EEAT optimized content pieces. So it talks about the history, a little bit more about the product, and then again, those links to show you more about it, how to choose a tennis racket, again, just really helping in that full funnel experience for customers that might be looking for this particular product.
Lisa, I'm going to preach here just for a second. That's related to this as another benefit. So one of the things that is not a huge deal as it relates to performance, but it is a big deal when you're just thinking about evaluating reporting or bringing things together. So if we think about your PIM tool, right, and you have all of your product content, and that product content is then syndicating to your website, to Amazon, to Walmart, whatever it is, right? Of course, your titles, for example, are going to be a little bit different based on the SEO that works for that platform. What I will say is that now that this consistency does impact performance, it only will benefit you on the other sites to get a little bit more organized when you're filtering or when you're running reports. So for example, obviously we evaluate a lot of campaigns, right? Paid media campaigns. When the naming convention is inconsistent, it is really, really hard to split up the insights or basically the Excel spreadsheet in a way that can be grouped easily, right? So not to say that like you have to do it. Obviously there's another incentive to do it, but when you are making this more consistent, I could see this work also benefiting your other efforts that might be a little bit annoying right now, that is kind of on the nice to have, not the need to have, and now can get service to the need to have. So I would think through when you're updating these things, how can I apply it to other channels to make your work easier there as well?
Yeah, another great question here. What is the biggest mistake you see DTC brands making in regards to AEO and GEO?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the over-reliance on generic AI generated content. Nicole has a slide a little bit
Yes.
later, yeah, where talking about can you use AI to come up in AI results, and when it's generic content, whether or not it was AI generated, the being so generic is not helping you, and it hasn't helped with traditional SEO either, right? Because you have those weak signals. It's generic or even duplicative of other sites. It doesn't stand out. And really, I think there can be issues with misaligned user intent. So when, if you're looking for somebody that's looking for the best sneakers for hiking, just coming up with something here, then you can't, that's kind of oddly specific. So you need to come up with content that's going to fit that. And we really dig into the demographics and conversion data, and we dig into this on so many levels to help inform content. But that's what I would say stands out to me is the generic content that's just not going to cut it when you need to have that level of authority. Excellent. So phase 4 is really treating the Gen AI as a new channel. So when a new channel emerges, what we see for brands is the ones that win are really moving early, right? So if it's TikTok, Reddit, Amazon search, early adoption definitely gives you an edge. And when it comes to brand visibility in these AI-driven recommendations. And I just mentioned if all these different pages are saying the same thing, when you go to that next level with the more in-depth content, that's going to help you stand apart. And this really takes us to the next step of continuing to test and learn. There's this opportunity to have a scalable source of traffic and lead to conversions. And I've seen stories like this already on LinkedIn where, and we've had some excellent stories here as well, where, it comes down to coming up in these results and then getting on the phone or seeing the conversion come through and the tracking. It all comes together, and it's very exciting to see this where brands are being able to scale and apply what they've learned to other pages and other areas of the business as they're launching new products. So earlier on, we mentioned staying ahead on these AI releases, that there's going to be changes. It's going to get smarter over time. That's the hope anyway. And so when we're looking at platform behavior, we can think about what the messaging needs to look like and, just keep up to date with the release changes. I've seen some interesting notes on GPT-5 and the way that you can prompt is so much different. I mean, early on, you needed prompt engineers to get the sort of results that you're looking for. Now it's just so accessible, and it just continues to change in that way. So it's something we're keeping a pulse on, and we're writing about it on our blog.
It's interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that standpoint that it's a whole new channel. But I think the complexity and the newness and the amount of time and effort that needs to be put behind it, it probably is a new channel. It probably is. If you look at the rate at which, like that chart you had at the beginning, that ChatGPT, or it was ChatGPT, but we're not even factoring into their Perplexity or Claude or Grok or whatever else is out
Right.
there. The rapid adoption, even of the voice search and zero click. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't afford not to be investing this. That's just the reality. You can't afford not to. Right now is the time.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't have this in here, but things that we're paying attention to as advertisers is that, call it 2, 3 years down the road, people are saying that we're no longer going to be advertising to the human consumers. We're going to be advertising to the AI chatbots to then surface the insights. And we've seen that with other channels, right? With Meta, with Google, with Amazon, all of it's free to begin with. And then you've got paid placement, and those paid placements come from those retail brands, right? So not to say that we're doing it today, but I think it's only time before we've got paid media campaigns running on these LLMs.
Yeah. I mean, if you're, you have to hire somebody or bring in experts now. But you can't wait. You can't wait a year on this, in my opinion. Wow. Awesome.
Cool. So want to talk on 2 other things that are just coming up. Obviously, a big piece of this was the organic side and SEO, but of course, the AI overviews and the LLMs in general are also changing social and paid media. So these itself could be 2 webinars, but we wanted to just obviously give you a little bit of information on the way that we're thinking about it for paid media and social media. So first, the shift itself, right? So I mentioned that the AI overviews is pushing down all of organic. Well, it's also pushing down a lot of that paid placement. So what's happening right now is that you should expect rises in CPCs because there are just fewer paid placements on the SERP. And we're seeing that already. The other part of it is that we should be thinking about it as kind of like a hybrid approach where we think of AI for scale and speed and then humans for strategy and oversight. So the same thing applies to paid media as what Lisa just mentioned. If you're going to rely on an AI tool to run your campaigns, that's great. There's some efficiencies there, but if we rely solely on that tool without any strategy, that's where you're going to run into some issues. So think about it in the sense of, we still need consumer discovery. We need to understand what the platforms that they're going to, and then we need that model that we are providing a cohesive consumer experience across all of those channels. So things to think about. I'm sure we had an ecom exchange on this on our LinkedIn if you want to learn a little bit more from Brett, our director of paid media. But these are things he's digging into on how we can make our teams more efficient through AI, but then also looking at our playbooks for paid media and thinking about how we need to change them and things that we need to be educating our brands about. How about social? So big update earlier this year was that Instagram is now surfacing in Google, right? In SERP. And Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's an organic placement, right? Or it's both AI overviews and organic.
Let me double check on that. I was leaning more on the organic side for that one.
That's what I thought. Okay, cool. Yep. So when we think about social posts or Instagram serving up in Google, what that means for you, think about index, it enables you to index on pro accounts. You should be thinking about optimizing your captions and hashtags more. So when we do social posts right now, we add those to our posts with the thought of getting more traction within that social platform, right? But now we have to think about it having an impact on our search results. So it makes it even more important to, like Lisa said, make those more cohesive, make sure you're adding them, and then tracking that obviously through different tools to show you how it's coming up in organic. Another one is the human plus AI co-creation is happening a lot. Erin, you mentioned this, right? So what does it mean for a social SEO? Well, AI boosts the efficiencies with drafts and metadata, but the human voice and drives the trust and engagement. So we use a lot of creative AI tools to write, for example, our Google ads or our social ads, but there's always a human behind it that's driving, again, the overall strategy or at a minimum doing the QC. We've heard of some horror stories of relying too much on these creative AI tools, and all of a sudden you've posted a video that you didn't QC and it's showing your product in a place that you really don't want it to be shown, that doesn't work for your customers. So there's definitely got to be a blend there, and you think of the human editing for the tone and the authenticity, and then the AI driving it for scale, right? I think that, and then the last one is with the GEO and AEO rise, just thinking about how you change your bullet points, you make them more concise about facts. You're thinking about your social posts in the same way that you're thinking about your blogs and your products. So there is, again, some consistency between the way you should be thinking about organic social and then your SEO efforts. So thinking about measurement. So these are again, hopefully this is a good slide that you can just take a screenshot of or save this one when we send out the deck. But basically what we have here is what's the KPI that we look at? How do we track it? And then what is the calculation? So these are just a couple, maybe 6 of the 10 that we're looking at on a weekly basis. But obviously the big one is your organic traffic growth. So the easiest tool to use is GA4. That's basically total sessions from organic search in a given period. What you're probably seeing right now is that this trend is going in a downward direction, right? And as you make these improvements, you should be thinking about how you can see that going up after certain blogs are posted or updates on the website. Keyword ranking improvement. You can use Google Search Console, SEMrush, Ahrefs, SimilarWeb. I prefer the software platforms for this just because they're easier and they're a little bit more concise. And then they also compare your insights to your competitors. But in general, it's just your average position of the top 10 to 20 keywords that you see over time. Click-through rate, obviously always a big one. That can be done through your Google Search Console. Engagement rates, conversion rates, those are all really par for the course in your overall performance that you're probably already tracking. But what I would say is that just like when you're launching new paid media campaigns, when you're making these efforts, you should be seeing a positive impact over time. The other one is your featured snippet or Google overview capture rate. We do believe that, the providers out there do a good job of allowing you to track this. So it's the number of snippets by overviews one by your total targeted queries. So that's a percentage as well. So things to think about. If you have other ones that you guys think, we're always looking to learn from brands. If there's other KPIs that you find super important for SEO, we'd love to hear them, and we can potentially add them. And then wanted to give you some examples of what these look like. So the AI visibility by topic, what SimilarWeb is doing is they're basically doing all of these tags or these alerts to all of the LLMs to get an idea of the data that's coming out of them. So from what I've learned, and I'm not an expert on this by any means, but the way that it's a lot harder to track competitor insights and your insights when it comes to the LLM platforms versus just search. Aaron, I don't know if you've talked about this either, but I have found these tools to be a little bit more expensive, but I think they're well worth it because it's the only way that I've seen that you're able to see those competitor insights next to yours. And why they're more expensive from the data side on the software side is it's just more data for them that they have to crawl and get.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the reality, right? This is so new. They're dumping tons of cash into trying to figure this out. They know they'll have a long-term play, but currently, yeah, it's expensive.
Yep. Cool. So can I use AI for SEO AI efforts, right? This has come up a little bit already. Here's a couple different bullets or tasks that we've broken down of which ones you should think about for AI SEO versus which ones humans should do. So again, if you think about the AI side of the tasks that they can do, think about it as scalable, repetitive, data heavy tasks. And then AI really excels at generating that keyword or the topic clusters. They can help you in drafting the FAQs, the schema, the meta tags, right? They can help you identify gaps in competitor content. So I know there was a question around like, are there specific reports within ChatGPT? We aren't using any of those, but what I will say is we do go into ChatGPT and say, hey, look at my website, look at my competitors, tell me what type of content they're using that I don't have, for example. That's a really good talking point that you could use to just come up with ideas if you're hitting a wall there. It also suggests internal linking opportunities. And again, that goes back to the credibility, right, of when you have it linked to other companies, just like regular SEO, it makes your content more credible. The human side, so defining the messaging and brand voice, right? We always feel like this is always going to be something that needs to be led by a human, not by AI. The validating the accuracy in the content. So for our own blogs, we will leverage AI to write those, right? But it's pieces of it and it's the outlines or it's the bullets. And then we're always having our team kind of put it together and make sure that the voice is correct. Building influencer PR amplification, those types of campaigns obviously still done by humans. And then when you get all of this information from AI, you are the one to decide how you want to prioritize those recommendations. Cool. Want to finish with just a quick case study, and this will get sent out, but one of the things that was really important to us is that we needed some type of guinea pig when all of this came out. So starting in, I believe, like February of this year, we applied this playbook that we just talked about to our own website. And I know we're more B2B and you guys are, B2C in the sense of retail, but just wanted to give you an idea that it does work. When we started in February, by May and June, 15% of our leads right now are coming from LLM sources. So if we weren't all, and we're personally seeing our organic traffic go down on our site. So we need to make sure that we're looking at these other channels and optimizing them appropriately because we can't expect, you brands to find us through Google search anymore, just like you aren't expecting your consumers to do the same. So it does work. But I will say it's a huge initiative for us, and we've dedicated one full-time resource to basically handling the strategy for it and the tweaking and rewriting all of our content. We have 3 blogs that drive a big portion of our leads, and all of those had to be optimized for AI. I would say it took about 45 days between when the optimizations went live to when we saw the results come in from inbound. That could just be our industry. So I'm not saying that would apply specifically to you, but it's not like an overnight thing. So happy to talk about this a little bit more in detail. If you have any questions, just wanted to back up a little bit of, that it does work. We're doing this for several other brands, and you should expect other case studies to come out from us by the end of the year with those results as well. Cool. So we've got 2 minutes just recapping. We will be also have a 10-step checklist that summarizes this entire presentation a bit more in detail. So we can send that out as well. But if you wanted to screenshot this one, 5 broad steps, right? So you first start with auditing your Gen I touch points. You then think about how you're optimizing for discovery. You then think about redirecting paid and owned. Always think about your competitor benchmarks, right? Who's winning, why, use SimilarWeb or other tools to track that. And then, of course, always, just like everything else in e-com and in digital marketing, test and scale is the win. Don't set it and forget it, right? This is something that you constantly need to be on, especially right now as it changes so quickly.
No, this has been awesome. So as we get to the end here, a quick, obviously, thank you, Lisa and Nicole. You guys are great friends, partners, supporters of the network. I'd encourage everybody on the line today, follow up with the team over there. They're industry leaders in this space. It's worth having a conversation and an audit done to see where you stand. They're just working with a ton of brands. They come highly recommended. So Nicole and Lisa won't jump out, I know, and say that, but I'll say 100% worth having a follow-up conversation with them for sure. Look for a follow-up email from me as well. I'd love to have a conversation with anybody on the line today. More than happy to share other things that are taking place across the network as a whole. Both AI, standard e-commerce, Amazon marketplaces, changes that are happening there, as well as org structure, a lot of changes on that side as well. More than happy to have conversations. We will send out a copy of this presentation. Also, we started posting all these on Next Up in Digital. It's a YouTube page. And we started capturing all of this in a digital deep dive newsletter on LinkedIn as well. So Nicole, Lisa, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks everybody for the great questions. And with that, we're going to wrap this one up. Sound good?
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks, Aaron.
It's been awesome. Thanks everybody. We'll see you. Bye-bye.